On this channel, $1 Million Made Easy, we love to run numbers for people. And what I want to show you in this video is just how important it is to use the S&P 500. This is the returns for the S&P 500 for the last 100 years. And these are the 10, 15, and so on averages. I want you to notice in 1923, this would average out to 6.96. You see all kinds of different numbers here. But I want you to notice something. The lowest for a 10-year period is 0.67. And as you go down out here, 15 years was 7.63 was the lowest, 20 years. The reason I'm showing this to you is the reason we run numbers for people and we start with 20 years is if you do it any less than 20 years, the numbers can be really problematic. Again, what I like to do is see people have 30 to 45 years left. Start young, because look at the lowest. The lowest for a 35-year average was 11.15%. I want you to keep these percentages in mind, because what I want to show you, let's just take somebody that can contribute $500 a month. The amount doesn't matter because we're going to be looking at, and also let's do a 3% COLA. And I want to go ahead and update this, and we're going to look at the specifically like a 30 and 35-year column. Once you see the 35-year column here with this scenario, the worst case scenario for the in the last 100 years for a 35-year period, would be $1.86 million, with the median being 2.781. Why am I bringing all this up? Because oftentimes when you use financial calculators, you come up with different things like you'll see this kind of Monte Carlo when they're running it. But amazingly, they always seem to run it at 7%. And I go, why are they running it at 7%? Why don't they run it at these higher amounts like 10, 11%? And here's what I saw. I saw this, let's see if I can, this one right here. This was something I saw a while back. And look at the average investor. This was over a 20-year period. I'm not even sure what 20-year period, but recently they only averaged 3.6%. Why? Because they tried different kinds of investing. Instead of just going what's worked for 100 years, and that's the S&P 500. Over this 20-year period, it was 9.5%. But interesting that these financial calculators always seem to run it at 7%. And I'm going, okay, that's twice as much what they average, but why not run it at 9.5%? And here's what I'm talking about. If you run this, I'm going to set this at 7% now. In other words, 7% all the way through. And I want you to notice the numbers here. 7% over a 35-year period, you got 1.179. And yet over here, the 35-year period, you got 1.860. And that's in the worst case scenario. Let's run this at 8% just to see if that makes much difference. This is a summary for that. Okay, after 35 years, you have 1.436 million. Over here, still got the 1.86. Let's do one more number. Let's do 9. 9%. Again, it seems like they always run it at 7%. Okay, let's see right here. Look at this. 1.76 million. Right here, it still hasn't caught up with this. Again, folks, this is the worst case scenario for the S&P 500 over the last 100 years for a 35-year period. So that's why we look at why not go with what the S&P 500 has done over and over and over again. And we saw recently right here that of the 11 truths that all investors must accept according to Kiplinger, we saw number 1. Look at number 2. You would likely not outperform the S&P 500 over the long term. It says, unfortunately, it's very difficult to outpace this index over an extended period of time. And so my question is, why doesn't everybody just go with the S&P 500? That's the index everybody's trying to match, everybody's trying to keep up with, and yet they don't do it. Instead, then they run averages like 7% instead of 9.5% or whatever, and they run numbers like this, and they end up with after 35 years 1.179, and you can go down through and look through here. My question is, look at 35-year column again. This is the worst case scenario, 1.860. And if we go out to the 45-year period, look at that. The worst case is 5 million. When 7% is only 2.976, and yet over and over again they run this 7% because why? Because people try different investments and they end up averaging like 7%. I go, why not use the S&P 500? But anyway, that's what we do on this channel. We run numbers for people. We like to use the S&P 500 because it has such great returns and has for the last 100 years. But that's what we do in this channel. We run numbers for people. Just give me your beginning balance in the comment section, beginning balance, whether you want me to inflate it each year and how much you want to put in. And we'll just run the numbers and see what they run out to using the S&P 500, which we believe is a lot better situation than just using this 7% rule or like this, ending up with 3.6% when you could have 9.5. But again, our channel is called Million Dollars Made Easy. I love to run numbers. Please consider subscribing. Please share this with everybody you know. Tell them there's a channel out there that'll run numbers for them and just give them some idea what they might have in the future, whether it's 20 years from now, 30 or 45, whether they're starting out with nothing, whether they're starting putting in $500 a month or whatever amount they come up with. We'll run the numbers. Please share this, like the video, and thanks for watching.